So I've been trying to get this shot for about 10-15 minutes now. It's a pretty simple shot. It's really just these little seaweed piles are just scattered all over the beach. It just looks kind of unusual. Kind of looks like a little bit kind of otherworldly or something. And I'm just trying to be lining it up, trying to get just one pile of seaweed here that's kind of a foreground interest, and then having it kind of fade off into the background with all these other little scattered piles of seaweed. But the tricky thing is just trying to line everything up and trying to keep all of the frame interesting, not having any kind of empty parts of the frame, trying to keep all the piles of seaweed like nicely spaced out, nicely spread out across the scene. I think I've got something now which I'm happy-ish with. Right off in the background there's some green hills which I'm trying to keep out of the frame. I really want to just try and just keep the shot pretty minimal, just focus on the sand and the seaweed, and it almost looks kind of like it's like the surface of the moon or something. It's unusual, and I kind of like unusual, so I'm shooting with Kentmere 400, which I'm going to rate at 200, I think, because it's kind of a grimy day. Let me see, so I kind of want to shoot about, I'll try everything in focus first, so I'll go f16, I think. Let me see, what am I getting on the sand? I'm getting about an 11 on the sand, so if I put that in for middle grey, that gives me 15th of a second at f16. So I'll go with that, I think, for the first shot. Set my aperture, f16, set my shutter speed to 15. Now I just focus. I'm just focusing on that at f16. I think I'm just going to focus on that first pile. And I think f16 should keep. I won't keep everything in frame because this in focus. Sorry, because this does have quite a distance to the background of the shot. But I think it will keep lots of it in focus. Enough, anyways. Let's give it a go. Okay, first shot in the bag. Okay, so this is my next little scene here. It's just this these little branches or little kind of shrubs that have been washed up by the tide. You can see the tide is out at the minute, so it's I like it, just this little isolated stack of branches kind of in the middle of nowhere. Again, I think it might make just a nice minimalist scene, but I'm just debating how to shoot this. I do have the 55 with me, the wide angle, which is around about a 25mm full frame equivalent. That's not exact now, I just half it because you're near enough. So I could shoot the 55, get right up close to it, isolate the subject, just purely shoot the branch on its own. But I could also maybe crack out a longer lens, maybe the 135 again, maybe even try the 300. 300 I think would be too much. I'd have to go too far back to get it in frame. Yeah, and just maybe compress the scene a bit and try and bring in some of these sand dunes at the back, which might add a little bit more interest to the photograph, and maybe add a little bit more kind of detail to the shot, I suppose, a little bit more of the environment that these branches are in. So yeah, I think I'm going to take a few minutes. I'm going to try a few lenses, just eye up the scene, see if any of them catch my eye. I'm going to start with the 135. Just going to pull out the cable release first so I don't break it. had a few things go wrong, but already on this little photo shoot I filmed the whole scene of me loading the camera with film, and then realised that I hadn't pressed record on the video, so I didn't capture any of it. So yeah, I haven't really introduced this video at all. I'm shooting with the Pentax 6.7. As you can see, I had a whole video planned out. I have a couple of lenses with me, kind of lenses, unusual lenses for me, for the Pentax, ones that I don't use very often. I have the 55, which I do use probably more than any other lens, but I also have the 135 macro that I just shot with, which I haven't used in quite a while. And I also have the 300mm telephoto lens, which I got a few weeks ago but haven't really used it at all yet. And I also have a 2x teleconverter, so again, kind of rough calculations. The 300mm is around about a 150mm field of view, full frame equivalent field of view on the Pentax, but with the 2x converter puts it back up to 300, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to use it, to be honest. I haven't exercised my telephoto eyes in a while, so it might be a little hard to find a nice place where I can use that, but I think I did see something earlier on when I was walking across the beach, so I'm definitely going to try and get at least one shot with the 300 just to see what it looks. So I tried the 135 there macro. I think it could work, to be honest. I'm just after throwing on the 55 now just to see if there's anything else. I really don't like the portrait orientation anymore. It's just, I don't know if the background is interesting enough. I could just take a shot purely of the branches. I think I might do that, to be honest. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that, with the 55. I just don't think the background is really adding anything interesting to the shot. Again, it's just asking myself the questions all the time. What is it that I'm shooting? What's the interest? And then just obviously the interest here is this little stack of branches. So, and then it's just really looking around and saying, is there anything that can support this image, support this picture? And if there isn't, you know, it's only going to become a distraction. So I'm going with the 55. I'm going to get right in close to it, try and fill the frame. The great thing about the 55 is that it's got a really good close focusing, super close here, but it has a better close focusing distance, even better than the macro lens I have. You can get closer, obviously you start to get distortion. Okay, so I think I have my frame. I find it interesting though. Again, it's kind of all about contrast, this shot. It's the dark black branches against the kind of paler shades of the sand. Have some nice leading lines there in the sand as well, kind of leading you through the frame. I think it's actually a good contrast through I'm kind of glad now I did leave out the background, because I think there's enough complexity in the tangle of branches. I think if I try to add anything more into the scene, it would only overcomplicate it. I think now, like, the focus of the viewer, I'm hoping, is really on that kind of detail that's in those branches. That's the hope. I know it probably won't even happen like that, but sure, at least I have the intention. Yeah, I think that's okay. The sand is kind of one stop above grey and the branches is kind of one stop below, so I think that's kind of a nice even exposure. I'm going to go for detail here again, so it's a small bit of movement in the branches as the wind is just blowing through. I was hoping to shoot at f11, that's a 15th of a second, which I think with that movement in the branches, I think it might get a little bit of blur, so I might go a bit higher. Yeah, I think I'll go f8 at a 30th of a second. I think I'm sharp there. I'm just going to watch the branches as they're moving in the wind and kind of wait for them maybe to die down a little bit. Double check everything, 30th of a second, f8. Just watching these branches. There's a big gust of wind there, so everything's moving. Now, Okay, I'm happy with that shot. Okay, so when I was walking up here earlier on, I spotted a scene off in the background there that I think might work on the telephoto, so I'm going to head over that direction. Okay, so I'm just going to try and show you what I'm thinking of shooting here. It's probably very hard to see it actually on this lens. It's just too wide an angle, but as the tide has retreated back out towards the sea, it's left this kind of pretty significant kind of pool of water here. And just in the pool of water, you can just barely see it there, is some dark coloured rocks, a little bit of greeny. I'll try and walk a bit closer, maybe you can see it a bit better, but it probably doesn't look like a whole lot now. But I'm thinking when I get the 150 on to the Pentax, maybe even throw the teleconverter on, get it up to a 300, that it's going to compress this whole scene. It's really just, again, I'm hoping it's going to turn out to be quite kind of a minimalistic shot, because you're going to have this water here that's obviously reflecting the sky. So that's going to be like kind of all one tone within the shot. You've got the sand coming in, which is a bit of a brighter tone, and then you have these dark black rocks, which is really going to be what adds the interest to the scene, that contrast of the black rocks against the kind of paler tones of the sky and the water. So this is with the 300mm, which is around about a 150 equivalent. And yeah, Jesus, this really does compress the scene. I'm way too close at the minute. Would that work? I don't think that's going to work. I think I'm going to have to go way back. Which is good about this beach in that I've got loads and loads of space to go back. I can go back pretty much as far as I want. Okay, so I've come right back, and I've decided just for the crack, I'm going to throw the 2x teleconverter on. I'm going to try the 300, see what it looks like. I think it's going to be way too tight, but sure, look, it's worth a try, see what it looks like. So yeah, like I was saying, this is a 300mm lens, around about a 150 full frame field of view. So with the 2x teleconverter on it, it now should be back up to that 300mm field of view, which is going to be just hugely compressed. I think I'm going to take this just because I just really want to try this lens out. I want to try the 2x teleconverter out just to see how it's working, see if there's any kind of focusing issues or anything like that. I'll see if I can show you what I'm looking at, maybe through the viewfinder. I'm not sure how it's going to look, but we'll give it a go. Okay, I'm trying to show you what I'm seeing. I'm not sure how well this is going to come out, but you can kind of see my frame there. I'm not sure if there's focusing issues with the little camera I'm using here. There probably is, but you can kind of see the scene there. It's very minimalistic. It's really just those dark black rocks that are adding any sort of interest to the frame. But I don't know, I'm not sure about it. There's a little bit too much sky in it, I think, which is a little bit boring. I'm thinking, yeah, the foreground is a little bit boring as well. I'm thinking of actually going to my right here and try to fill more of the frame with that water that's there. I've done a lot of walking around since I was last talking to you. Just walking over and back the beach and walking backwards and forwards and just really trying to line something up to try and fill that frame as much as possible. Not overly happy with the shot, but today is more about experimenting with different lenses, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm the first person out on the beach today. Obviously the sand is like perfect, but then you have my tracks which are literally just going over and back and over and back. Someone's gonna think there's a madman out here, and they'll probably be right, to be honest. But now, I didn't read up on this lens whether, because of the sheer length of it, whether I need to compensate with some stops of light. I should check that out, but I'm not. I'm just going to guess it. I'm going to throw an extra stop of light onto it because it is quite long, especially with the teleconverter. It's definitely going to rob me of at least a stop, I'd say. There's actually quite a bit of movement in the lens. I can see it just vibrating in the wind quite a bit. So that's something I didn't really think of. That could be an issue. Do I drop it to 5.6? Maybe if I keep my hand on it and try and damper it a little. Ooh, I went for it. A bird actually flew across the scene. And I said, what the hell, I'll try and get the bird in. At least it adds some little bit of interest into that sky. Not a whole lot. While I've been standing here, I've just been looking around me at the sand. Has those little tracks in it. I'm not sure if it's from the wind or whether it's from the way the tide retreats, but it's got all these nice little grooves in it. And again, with the telephoto lens, I can really isolate those. So I don't know if you can see it here, but again, to look at the scene like this, it doesn't really look like anything. It's quite boring, but what I'm interested in is these little tracks, and they cover the whole beach there. Now, it would be nice if they were leading towards something, but they're not really leading towards anything here. So I'm just going to focus in on these tracks. And with the telephoto lens, I can really compress the whole scene and really draw all those lines right into the camera, which got my 300mm lens back on the camera. No teleconverter this time, and I'm going to focus about a third of a way into the scene. I'm more concerned about the foreground of the shot being in focus. I want it to be sharp at the front, and if it falls off as it goes towards the back of the scene, I'm okay with that. I'd rather that than, like, a lot of times landscape photographers will tell you to focus kind of 2/3 of the way into the scene. With the right f-stop, it'll give you the best depth of field, but for this one, I'm afraid if I focus 2/3 of the way into the scene that I will start to lose some focus in the foreground of the scene, and that's not what I want. So I'm going to focus 1/3 of the way into the scene, and then I'm not as concerned if the background falls away then. 1, 2, 3. I just came across this little scene here. Just the patterns that are made in the water. I'm not sure if you can see it there, but I kind of like it. It's very abstracty, which is kind of what I'm into these days, and I think it could look quite cool on black and white. There's a lot of movement in the water. That's probably the only thing that's concerning me. I think I'll have to use quite a high shutter speed to try and combat that, but I'm just walking along this little stretch here, just seeing if there's something that kind of catches my eye or something that I can try and form into some sort of a photo. I've been here for about 20 minutes now, just walking up and down this little stretch of this stream here, just trying to pick some sort of shapes out. I'm trying to be intentional with my shot. I'm trying to shoot something for a reason. It's not just, oh, that looks cool, I'll shoot that. There's actually a little bit of thought behind it, a little bit of process. But it's difficult, you know. I used to always think abstract photography or abstract painting was quite easy, but I actually think the opposite now. It's probably one of the hardest types of photography or art form you can do, because trying to make a structure to something that looks like it doesn't have a structure, that looks like it's just you know, it's just something that's just been thrown on there and there's no thought behind it. You know, it's very hard to actually make what I'd call maybe an intentional abstract shot, where you are in control of the scene to a certain extent. Obviously, you don't want to control everything. You like to leave, you know, a little bit of mystery in there. There's almost like a cascade effect here, which I kind of like. It's almost like things are tumbling down from the top right hand corner of the frame. Really trying not to step on anything here that could potentially work as a shot. I'm gonna go with this. I think I need to advance. I need to focus. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rain is still coming, so I'm just trying to protect my video camera as much as possible. So I've got you kind of propped up in kind of inside my bag, just poking out. So not sure how well you can see this, but just as I was coming around the beach, I just spotted these. I guess it's wind lines. Maybe it's from the tide, but it's just creating these nice leading lines. Curved edge here, which I'm just trying to use them as a leading line really to draw you into the scene. There's a bit of a big sand dune off in the background. It's not the most interesting subject matter, so it'd be nice to do a little bit better, but okay, I've finally made it around the other side of the beach, made it up onto this headland. The weather is just really giving it everything now. It's so windy, still raining, but it's absolutely beautiful up here. You can just see over there is where I was earlier on, right over in that far headland. So I've walked all the way around. It's taken me about 45 minutes. Just absolutely stunning views. Big waves crashing in. Absolutely beautiful here. I'm set up, I'm ready to go. Got the Pentax 6.7 to 55 millimeter on it. I'm thinking I'm going to take 2 shots here. One, just a normal shutter speed. I'm going to try one long exposure. See how that looks. Just took a meter reading there. It's giving me about 1/25 of a second at f8. Absolutely stunning. So I'll set that shot up and I'll show it to you now. Okay, all set up using Lee filters here. So I'm using a 10 stop, which I reckon is going to give me about, it's about 10-second exposure, but with reciprocity failure. I don't have any reception here, so I can't really check anything, so I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to double the time. I'm going to run it for 20 seconds. So it's going to be f8. 20 seconds. I'm going to see how that comes out. Long exposure is not usually something I do a whole lot, but I thought it'd be some good practice for today, especially with these rough seas, just to see how much it smooths it out. It's absolutely stunning here, to be honest. The weather's a bit tough to work in, but I really do like the kind of ruggedness of it too. Something I really like. So yeah, I'm just going to set this off now, and hopefully shot comes out and I can show you how it looks. Yeah, just ran that shot off. You can see just how windy it is here. Hopefully that shot come out. Should be a nice comparison, compare the two. It's absolutely lovely here, just watching the waves. Could stay here all day really. But I've got one shot left on the Pentax, and just as I was making my way over here, I spotted kind of the ruins of an old church or an old monastery just a little further along the headline. Had some nice views in the back with the ocean and waves, so I think I'm going to head around there, set that up as my last shot. Not sure how it's going to come out, but I think it might look interesting in black and white. Actually, scrap what I just said there. I just remembered I have a Holga in my gear bag. Someone kindly made me a filter holder for it, which actually, it's a few years ago it was given to me. It was someone on Instagram, and I can't 100% remember who it was, but I've used it once or twice. It's a bit finicky. If you look at it here, I'll just spin you around maybe. I have to kind of jam it on. It doesn't work well with this tripod. I've actually had to put the mounting plate sideways on the camera just to try and get it in there, but it seems to be holding all right. So I'm going to try just what the filter holder allows me to do. It allows me to put a 10-stop filter on the Holga, but it also allows me to use a cable release. I don't know if you can see it just there at the top. What that allows me to do is do long exposure, so I'm just going to run it for the very same again. I'm going to give it another 20 seconds, see how that looks on the Holga. Could be a cool comparison. Obviously the Holga is a lot more lo-fi than the Pentax, but the Holga is also, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it's also a lot tighter crop than 55 I was using. I think the Holga is something like I don't know, is it a 60mm or something like that? But it's a lot tighter in, so it's going to be a different composition, but it should look cool with the long exposure. Okay, so I've had a complete change of plans. I've decided against the picture of the old ruins, and instead, seeing as I have the telephoto lens with me, the 300mm and the 2x converter, and because there's such spectacular waves crashing out there, I'm going to try and capture one of those waves on film. It's not going to be easy, to be honest. It's a very tight crop. I'm trying to watch the waves, see where they're breaking, and hopefully I can just line a shot up where I just need to crack that shutter just as it comes into frame. Bit of a long shot, but I think it's worth it. It's not too often I'm carrying these lenses, so that was the perfect chance to try and to use them and see what I can get. So yeah, fingers crossed, hopefully I get something. Not massively hopeful, to be honest, but I think it's worth giving it a go. Getting some funny looks with this lens. It's an absolute beast. Anyways, hopefully here's one last shot, one chance. Hopefully I can capture something. I'm just waiting for the right wave to come. An absolute monster of a wave came in there a minute ago, so I'm just thinking if I give it another minute or two, that big one's going to come again. I'm just waiting for the right one to come. big one. Are you big enough? You're not big enough. It's a nice wave there. Just missed it. Oh, I see a big one coming. I see a big wave making its way in now.